So today we're going to be talking about Vox Machina.
Fear not, ranger, barbarian, magician, thief, cavalier, and acrobat.
It's not... Let's try that again.
Who's drunk? Not me, I'm great.
Didn't you only have one ale?
I think that scene showing that Keyleth gets drunk after only one drink is to let us know that she's lived a really sheltered life. A lot of parents shelter their children so that bad things don't happen to them. There's a cost to that, but the way that we learn that we're competent is by becoming resilient, and that means that we have to go through difficult situations. That's how we build our capabilities and our belief in ourselves. And the problem is if we end up being very, very sheltered and then thrown out into the world, it's like having an indoor cat that's never experienced the world before, and then at a certain stage, we just throw them outside, and they haven't learned the skills in order to survive. And our job as parents is not to protect our children from the world, but to prepare them for it.
Keyleth! A little magic might help?
I'm serious trouble here!
We never know how we're going to respond when danger hits, but especially if you have not gone through lots of very dangerous situations, you may go through a freeze response. And that's when your limbic system kind of floods out your cognitive part of your brain, the part that thinks. And you can see her looking around and she can kind of hear things, but they're muted because her brain is just processing way too fast, and all it's saying is just survive. And that ringing and the fact that it's kind of echoing, that's really common for people. And it's like you want to move, but your body just won't let you.
Keyleth!
Keyleth! Sorry, okay.
Vex, she shouts at her to kind of bring her back in. Now, I wouldn't say that shouting is the best way to handle when someone's going through a freeze response, but you can fully understand it. There's not a lot of time to walk her through things. And for Keyleth, it does bring her back, which is allowing her to kind of snap back to reality and bring her back to the here and now.
Dragon, we almost died.
Except we didn't die.
And that's the after effect of having a panic attack, is that we go through these aftershocks. We weren't able to really process it while we were there. Our brain does that naturally so that we can stay at the task at hand and survive. But then after, we can reflect on how dangerous it was, and that's traumatic for us also. And Keyleth is reflecting on how that could have been the end of them. And the reason for that is so that we can take a look at, did we handle this in the best way possible? It's our brain going through a new battle plan if necessary.
Because of you, Keyleth, you hear me? We're alive because of you.
Pike knows that Keyleth doesn't really believe in herself, and that's also because I'm assuming she was so sheltered. Even though Keyleth is so powerful, but she doesn't really own it. She doesn't yet believe it within herself, and Pike recognizes that and helps her restructure her thought patterns. Our response to danger or stress or a difficult situation, that all will depend upon our belief in ourselves. If we know we're going to handle it, our body is not going to give us a stress response because we have that. And so Pike is specifically trying to help Keyleth understand her power and her skill, and that she made a difference to this team, so that hopefully Keyleth can also imbue that within herself and not have that freeze response when danger comes up.
I'm in. Oh, I'm not gonna lie, I'm terrified, out of my mind, but I'm in.
And that's the true definition of courage. Courage is not doing something and having no fear. No, courage is being scared, being terrified, and still being able to move forward.
Keyleth, can't you give us a little sunlight?
Me? I don't know. I've never tried. I guess. Come on. I can't do it.
Keyleth is still too much in her head. She doubts herself before she even tries. Our inner voice and how we reflect upon it, that changes all the circumstances around us. If we undermine ourselves, we're going to aim too low. We're going to try tasks that are too easy for us. In order for us to really grow, we need to go into that growth stage where something is a little bit difficult, it's hard and challenging. And so Keyleth needs to really work on her own belief in who she is as a person and what she brings to the table.
Didn't know about your past. I know you think you're alone, that we don't know what you're going through, but you don't have to be.
A lot of people that are strong on the level of empathy, they kind of absorb the feelings from those around them. So with Percy being upset, she feels his pain and wants to make him feel better.
I may never see my family again. I don't get to go home until I prove myself worthy.
I didn't know that.
She wants to share her story so that Percy knows that he's not alone. And I think that she's hoping that he feels comfortable enough to share his pain also. That's the way that we bond in groups and form new tribes. And I think that it's very important for Keyleth to feel like she's a valuable member of this group.
Appreciate that, Keyleth. Truly, and for the record, I think you're damn worthy.
And you see how Keyleth's eyes lit up when he said that you're damn worthy? She wouldn't have really taken those words in and they wouldn't have meant as much if that was from Pike or from Vex. Why? Because Percy rarely gives compliments. He kind of acts like he doesn't even really care about everyone that much. Him not just saying you are worthy, but you're damn worthy, that emphasis from someone that doesn't give compliments carries so much more weight. And that's what she needs. When you see someone's eyes light up when you give them a compliment, that's when you know that that's the bucket that they hope to be fed in. That's what they need to be filled. And for Keyleth, she needs to feel like she's valuable and contributing, and she has character traits that makes her a valuable team member.
Keyleth, it's time! Prove yourself!
That moment. I love Keyleth really owning her own power and being able to show it when push came to shove. When she's really scared, she's able to do such amazing things. And that scream that she lets out, that's that true belief in being able to do what she had hoped for. A lot of times when we've put all of this doubt in ourselves, to be able to let loose and really just let go, to not be inside of your head, feels amazing. And this is her moment truly to shine.
You're their light now.
And I love Pike saying to Keyleth that you're their light now. One is because of the last scene. It means it's so meaningful. But that nod from Keyleth, like, she owned that. This time she didn't doubt it. She didn't say, I'm not sure. And this moment, she was really able to internalize that she can do this. And I think that this is the start of seeing a new Keyleth.
Allow me to give you a proper introduction.
Oh, gods, here we go.
There's Grog, a mighty giant. He's a simple-minded hulk.
I agree with Scanlan that, you know, Grog might be a little bit less sophisticated than the other people that are in the group, but I think that that's often said as an insult. But I think that we all feel a huge affinity towards Grog, and that's because we know exactly where we stand. Because if he thinks something, he's just gonna say it.
That's right! Who's the best? Yeah!
He just says it, because he is the best.
I suggest we run. Dad. We fight!
He also doesn't always evaluate a situation on many different levels. He thinks directly, and so because of that, whatever he feels, he does. Which sometimes means he's running towards a dragon that he probably should be running away from.
I don't like losing. Now I'm feeling things on the inside. They don't feel right. So yeah, I'm with you.
And because he doesn't have all of those filters, all of those defense mechanisms in front of him, he's just honest about how he feels and the way that he reacts to things. And that makes other people feel safe. There's something so nice when you know that someone's gonna be direct with you, that whatever they think about you, they're gonna say it. If they don't like you, they're gonna say it directly to your face. Well, it doesn't feel good to know that someone doesn't like you, but it feels worse to think that someone likes you and then they're talking behind your back about how they don't. It's something really comforting to know that you'll always know where you stand with someone. And that's at least honest. And I think that a lot of people prefer that because we're so exhausted with everyone wearing all of these masks, pretending to be something that they're not. It's refreshing to have someone that is just who they are.
Clearly, I'm the brains of this operation.
Really? She told me you have for brains, which doesn't seem possible.
So that also means, though, when you're talking to someone that's really direct, that isn't going to filter or conflate or lie about things, that when you share something with them and someone else asks about it, they're going to state it because they're not good about being deceptive, which can be refreshing, but sometimes they may share things that you were hoping that they would keep under wraps. If you're hoping that someone's going to keep a secret, you need to know what kind of a person that they are. I'll be honest, I don't think that Vex would have actually minded because I think that she would have told Scanlan right to his face.
Beautiful.
Grog, it's rude to stare. Grog, you're being gross.
And I think that Grog really would be that representation of our id, that primal part of us, without all of the ego and the superego. He's just that primitive state. He lets how he feels out, even those parts that you should probably just leave on the inside and keep it in your inner voice, not share it as your outer voice.
I'm not going.
Well, I'll come with you.
I have to do this alone, buddy. And they need you.
What if I need you?
I love that scene. I love it because it shows how close of a friendship Pike and Grog really have. And I love how open Grog is about his feelings, that him missing Pike and saying but I might need you, especially because he's this big, burly, tough guy, and he's able to share those feelings, those really deep feelings of meaning. And you know that he means every single word of that. And that's why it's so hard, because I think that for Grog, Pike really is his person, and she gets him on a level that I don't think that anyone else in the group really does.
You can always talk to me. Even if I'm not around. You'll feel me there with you.
People that give this tough outer appearance, we often forget that on the inside we're still kids. All of us, even as adults, we still have this part that needs to feel validated and loved and cared about.
Are you crying?
No, Pike said I could talk to her even if she's not here and I'd feel her. But it doesn't work.
He took Pike's words really literally, and sometimes it's really hard when someone isn't with us. And I think that a lot we carry those that are close within ourselves, and we know what they're gonna say even though they're not there. But it can be really hard in those times when we really want to hear someone. For Grog, he doesn't feel that same closeness because his inner voice is mostly him, and he hasn't internalized Pike's voice yet. But when we get to know someone, some people are able to really internalize it, have complete conversations with people that aren't there. For other people, they might be more literal, and that's much more difficult for them. Not everyone even has an inner voice.
Pike is going to be fine.
I know that. She's stronger than all of us. I'm more worried about us without her.
Oh, and I love that, because he really sees Pike for who she is. And even though Grog is this big, tough guy, and Pike is tiny and sweet, he sees her strength. When you really care about something, that's the magic, is that you see the beauty in them. If they're looking horrible or had a rough day, you don't even notice it, because to Grog, Pike is larger than life. And who you embody has nothing to do with your size and your looks. He's so much more than just comic relief. He represents that part of ourselves without all of those masks. He can just be who he is. All of us kind of need to have a little bit more Grog within us to be able to be whoever we want to be and not worry about being judged by everyone around us.
Vex and Vax only care about themselves. Grog just wants to murder everyone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Percy barely wants to be seen with us in public.
When you've lost everyone that's close to you, you end up not only dealing with survivor's guilt, a lot of people then become defensive. They don't want to get close to others. You've already lost everyone. You can understand how that would be an even greater cost for Percy. A lot of his abrasive, sarcastic nature, why he isn't really open, is his own defense mechanism. He doesn't let people close to him and doesn't get close to others, then he won't get hurt again. And often when people are prickly or sarcastic or harsh. It's just because they've cut out that part of them that feels, because they've been through so much pain and torment.
And Percy, too.
You see how Percy's hair went white from all of the stress. We hear a lot of tales of people's hair that turns white overnight because of traumatic experiences, and that isn't exactly the case. No, your hair doesn't actually go white overnight because of stress. But stress actually can damage those stem cells that produce melanin, the thing that creates color. And we do know that stress damages those cells. And because of that, your hair can grow in white where it wasn't before. And that's the way that stress is damaging, but not intense stress or panic attacks, more of that generalized stress if you're continually stressed. Because moments of stress are not actually bad for us. It's like going over a roller coaster ride or watching a scary movie. Continual stress, generalized anxiety where you can never come down from it, our body doesn't heal. Our body only heals in times of happiness or relaxation. And so if you're always saying danger, our body is always in defense mode. And because of that, in times of stress, our body doesn't decide to heal. We're ready for battle because that will keep us alive. And we often go through nightmares. The main thing that you want to look at nightmares is more the feeling that you feel during them. Now, sometimes what you go through is significant, what you see in the nightmare, but the emotions that you go through is even more significant. And for Percy, you can see that it's powerlessness, pain, anger, that feeling that he's not in control, the torment of reliving something that he wished had a different ending. And I think that the main one for him through all of it was powerlessness, that he couldn't do anything to fix it.
Must you? I'm simply suggesting you could all benefit from some well-practiced restraint.
Emotions aren't meant to be bottled up. Maybe you should cut loose once in a while.
For Percy, though, that's what he's doing all the time, always restraining himself. So this is a little bit of projection. He's asking everyone else to do what he's always doing. Why? Because he's filled with pain and anger. And so we never really see the true Percy. He always is containing himself, because if he really let loose, we'd see the demons that's lurking inside of him, all of that pain and anguish and anger from all of the trauma that he's gone through. He sees everyone being so unrestrained and free, and that's probably really frustrating for him because he works so hard at being able to keep himself in this well-manicured image. And I think that a little bit of that is his own anguish and jealousy of other people being able to be so free with their emotions where he can't, because if he truly let loose, I think that he's scared of what might come out. We're constantly trying to keep the parts of ourselves that may become too much on the inside. Bottling them up doesn't actually help them heal. The only way through healing is actually going back to those dark places and dealing with them in whichever way works for you.
The sad reality is that the Girolos abdicated, and after their children raided the treasury, they abandoned their people to rot.
Liars!
You can't really blame Percy. He's been going through this situation in his head continuously. And to have not only his parents' good name besmirched, but also he himself, his own character, that he was doing something that was against his own parents, that was just too much for him. For many of us, it would be really hard to sit across from someone that has hurt us so deeply. And Percy already, you can tell that he's kind of this time bomb. He always seems like he's just barely on that edge of control. And this, no doubt, was way too much for him. When we've been trying to contain ourselves, everything comes out with it.
Stop them!
Come visit us sometime, Percival.
No! Had them! And you let them slip away!
because Percy's been trying to keep himself restrained, when he sees his chance at vengeance that just slips out of his fingers, all of that anger and rage, we often yell at someone else instead of blaming ourselves, because that would hurt too much, and he already feels too overwhelmed with his own guilt and pain. And so because of that, he blames the nearest other people, his teammates. We often then blame those that are closest to us, those that we care about, for the mistakes, the flaws that we did. And so you often want to be careful with blaming others when something bad happens. Even that moment of pausing might help you be able to regain some control of your anger.
Answer me.
I'm only a servant. They don't tell me anything.
Now your soul is forfeit.
And now we can see the darkness that lurks within him. This is what he's been containing all of this time. And that's the thing with revenge, is that it eats you from the inside. It's this darkness that even when you get what you want, it doesn't feel as good, because what he really wants, he can't actually get back. No revenge will actually make him feel better. That plague doctor motif perfectly embodies the demon that's really within himself, all of that pain and anguish, and it's the opposite of how powerless he felt. When we've gone through something so traumatic and we haven't been able to help or save those because we weren't strong enough, we often overcompensate because we really want to make sure that this can never happen again. And that scenario will run over and over in our head, but with a different outcome.
The creation of the Pepper Box begins 5 years ago. With my family murdered, I had no way of striking back. I fled.
And a lot of people do that when they've gone through trauma or pain or being bullied or loss. That feeling of powerlessness, it's so horrible that we often recreate ourselves in a way that we try to make sure that that can never happen to us again. But not only just him, he made sure that he had the mechanisms to be able to write this, to make sure that no one would be able to make him feel this powerless ever again.
Unrelenting visions of my family's end, the hatred inside me grew. Vengeance burning hotter than black powder, nearly consuming me.
The more that you play something in your brain, the stronger those emotions become. And so with him replaying in his brain trauma and grief and anger, it becomes much stronger because neurons that fire together wire together. And emotions are like any other skill. You want to get better at playing piano, practice playing piano. You want to get better at being angry, practice being angry. It's really interesting that every time he gets that vengeance, you see all of that anger and pain and trauma exude out from him. The same thing that comes from the black powder of the gun, it actually comes out of him. It's become who he is. Grief or sadness or anxiety, it can become our identity, and then we don't actually want to lose it, because who are we when we no longer have the thing that is ours? Even though it's traumatic and horrible, in a strange way, some people can actually feel comforted by this. And this is not for him being dramatic, it's him being protected. If he's just angry and wants revenge all the time, then he doesn't have to worry about being loving and empathic and getting close to people. It's actually a very effective defense mechanism. But in the end, it's maladaptive because we need people, we need love. It stops him from being able to feel, which keeps him safe, but also keeps him away from getting something that might actually allow him to have peace.
A spawn of science that would bring me the revenge I so desperately sought. I dreamt of this.
Percy ended up giving himself a task to keep his mind off of the pain, which can be healthy, but his task was a task of revenge, and in the end, that's like the poison that we drink and hope that someone else dies. He's the one that exudes this black powder. It's become who he is. No amount of revenge is actually going to give him back what he hopes for.
La-da-da, la-da-da. My lady's rose I will pluck. My love, it's time for us to...
I don't think that we really have enough time on one video to go through all the different scenes of Scanlan being a complete rogue and trying to bed, yes, the whole realm. But I really want to go into why. Does Scanlan just really enjoy having all of these very superficial interpersonal relationships, or is he using this as a defense mechanism to try to get a lot of attention, or is he trying to avoid a very deep and intimate relationship? Because often people do use sex as a means to actually keep people close, but not too close.
I got you.
Thanks. You can put me down now.
Oh, yeah.
And this scene with Scanlan and Pike does bring me pause. If he really was this shameless rogue that never cared about anything, then why is he shy when Pike lets him know that he can stop holding her? That means that there's some actual feelings. There's something on the line, something that he might like more than he wants to admit. And of course, he could be both. He could be this shameless rogue and have actual feelings also for Pike.
What the hell are you doing, Scanlan? Thinking of a rhyme for dead dragon? 'Cause I guess we're killing one.
And a lot of questions I get are about, is Scanlan just a narcissist? But here in this scene, he's showing real empathy and risk to himself. All of those facades of bravado are gone. And a narcissist is someone that really has to project that they are great and are always sharing how wonderful they are. And when people talk about other things besides themselves, they always bring it back to them. They don't have a lot of empathy. They'll use and manipulate other people in order to self-aggrandize or get the things that they need. And they might feel a lot of envy at other people that might be doing something greater than they are or getting a lot of attention for it. They also can come off really entitled. And they have preoccupations with power and control. And the thing with a narcissist is that inside they don't actually believe that. They have to project all of these feelings outward because on the inside they aren't really sure of how great they really are. So they have this internal crack that they're trying to protect with all of these outwards expression of how amazing and fabulous they are. I love it every single time he shouts out Scanlan's hand, but don't you know those people that always have to name something after themselves or remind people of what amazingness they did? If they really believed it, if they had this healthy self-esteem, they wouldn't have to do this, though. The only reason why people remind others of how amazing they are is because they're actually worried that other people will forget or won't notice. It also shows that excessive need for admiration, which definitely fits in the narcissist's toolbox. I think that he has some narcissistic traits, but I don't think that he's a true narcissist. He does this to overcompensate. Maybe it's a gnome issue. Maybe his parents didn't show him enough attention, or there were a lot of people that got attention besides him. I think also in this world and in our culture also, that need to be unique and special is kind of burned into us, and so being regular isn't good enough. Especially when we see some people getting so much admiration and attention. We think that that's going to feel just so wonderful, but remember, extrinsic self-esteem is ephemeral. It doesn't stick, whereas internal self-esteem, really caring about who you are as a person for your traits, that stays and it's very stable.
Scanlan the Revolutionary. My pitch? I infiltrate the prison with all these potions I found. I don't know what they do yet, but let's assume they make me a one-man army.
And another narcissistic trait that Scanlan carries is they often overestimate their own skills and qualities and can do so with great conviction. Him thinking that these potions are going to save him even though he has no clue what the potions do is an idea that will probably end very poorly.
It's far too dangerous, and you're far too you.
I'm a master distractor. My songs, my jokes, me. You're always saying I'm annoying. Let me be annoying.
And you can tell when Scanlan is putting on his bravado because his voice is completely different. When he was serious about fighting the dragon and right now when he's in this dangerous situation versus when he's putting on the show. And that's when he doesn't have to wear this mask of how great he is in hopes that everyone else will buy it. His family, the people in Vox Machina, they know, they can see through this into who he really is.
Gonna prove Vex wrong. Rain comes along.
His ability to risk his own life for the benefit of his group and a cause that he believes in, that also is not something that most narcissists would do. It shows how much he really cares and his acts of courage and bravery. And I think that that's what's really enduring about Scanlan, is that though he puts on this great show, and I do believe that he has some narcissistic traits that he's carried with him, I think that he uses most of them more as a defense mechanism in hopes that everyone will start to believe it so that he can too, than him being a true narcissist.
Get away from my gnome! Probably a good thing I can't hear you right now.
I love Scanlan's reaction to this because he really shows how much affection he has towards Pike, and I think that it was really healing for him to have someone that cares about him so much that they would risk their life in order to protect him. The thing with having all of these superficial relationships with many people is that it isn't as meaningful, and I think that that's something that Scanlan really appreciates, and those relationships are completely fine. You want to make sure that you're getting what you want from them. And so I think that Scanlan enjoys having fun. I think even because of that, he really appreciates the difference between intimate relationships also.
Unless you want to be gutted like a fish.
I hope it wasn't too much trouble, Silas.
It was nothing.
It was greatly beneficial to our survival to be able to, in a matter of moments, know who are we dealing with. So we already know that 1, Delilah does not mind at all Silas's dark side, and though he is very refined, he also is quite a dangerous individual.
Have we met before?
We learn that Delilah is exceptionally perceptive. She notices that Percy is looking at her in a way that wouldn't be as someone that does not know her. And I love that when she drinks from her wine glass as she notices, she places the wine glass so that we see Percy's image through the blood red wine. She can see the look behind his glare, that anger is seething and he's just barely able to control it.
The sad reality is that the Girolos abdicated. They abandoned their people to rot.
Bias!
When you're having an adversarial relationship or you're up against someone, you want to get into their head. You want to bring them to the point where they're no longer able to think, because if they get angry enough, it actually shuts off the part of their brain, that working memory. And because of that, they become limbic. They become at the will of their most base primal reactions. She's able to find out what cards Percy is holding. And when you're playing a game of poker, you want to keep your cards to yourself. But unfortunately, Percy's been going through so many years of torment and his own guilt that Delilah was able to poke at just the right parts. And when she saw him reacting, then she knew that she was onto something and she could find out exactly who he was and what he wanted.
I think we will retire for the night.
It was a lovely dinner. We especially enjoyed the company. So refined.
Oh, and that last little hint, you saw that even though Percy yelled and screamed, they were both cool as a cucumber, calm, relaxed. This didn't bother them. This is nothing compared to the things that they've been up against. And that last little tiny dig, that's just to keep him off of his game. You want people to remain inside of your head. She's been living rent-free in Percy's head for all these years, and she wants him to know that she bested him so that she keeps him from feeling stable and calm, which would give her mentally the advantage.
They have my book!
A minor inconvenience, my love.
But that tome contains details of
It will avail them of nothing. We have the means of retrieving it, don't we?
He's so commanding and reassuring, a cold-blooded killer to everyone else, but he's able to soothe her with a look, his voice, and a touch. A really good showing of a relationship's health is how do they soothe and comfort each other when one is in distress, or both of them are. It's really easy to be nice and kind when everything is going well. But when one person is in distress and the other person can calm them with a word and a look, that's a really good showing of a very strong bond. There are these brutal killers. We're not supposed to like them, but their relationship together, you can see how strong their bond is, how charismatic they are, how united they are in their plight. And that's really endearing.
Excuse me, did we win a prize?
Yes, little one. You've been chosen for a very special event.
This shows how strong they feel about this endeavor, that you would think that Delilah may be warmed by this cute little child that's giggling and so excited. But you can see from her face that this doesn't matter at all. I think that it's important to show that everything she will put on the line for Silas.
Liar! Silas, please, hold on. This is not the end.
The reasons for them doing this, for starting on this venture, was one of love and loss and not wanting to lose the person that we will do anything for. We can relate to that. And when we can relate to that, that means that we can feel their pain and hurt also. This is so much more than just a black and white situation. Plus, their relationship itself is also so deep and so strong. It's something that probably all of us will want to have in our own lives. Not to this extreme level of wiping out a whole city or country or world for, but can't most of us understand that need if we ever lost someone that is truly dear to us? All of the lengths that we would go in order to get them back, if only for a moment, if only just for a chance. That's what makes Delilah and Silas such a poignant and heartbreaking story.
Silas, it worked.
I should be down there.
No, you are more precious to me than you'll ever know.
And I believe her. I don't even think that Silas really knows the lengths that Delilah has gone to make sure that they stay together. And him putting himself at risk when they don't have to, that isn't something that she wants to even chance, because over anything, she can't lose him. He matters more to her than anything else on this earth. When we care about something so much, that can cloud our judgment. It can make us do things that we wouldn't normally do, want things that we normally wouldn't want, because that primal kind of love, it actually activates the older part of our brains, the same part that deals with anxiety and anger. And so because of that, it kind of shuts off our working memory. That's when we do things and we look back and go, why did I even do that? Well, we were overcome by that strong emotion that, just like anxiety and anger, one of these survival mechanisms, it shuts off our thinking part of our brain, the cognitive part that we're so proud of, and then we just go through the things that we need to survive, because our need for love, our bonding with others, is innate to our own survival. I don't know if I was supposed to, but I felt so much pain watching Delilah lose Silas. One is because she watched him die, and that feeling of powerlessness when you care about someone so much and you've almost lost them once. You can often become really controlling and try to protect them and keep them out of harm's way and try to control all the environment around you so something bad won't happen. But the problem is that the things that we try to control actually control us, and that control is an illusion. You can't control everything. To hear that primal scream of that loss, I really felt it. Like, I think that I would have felt better if they had died together or died protecting each other. I would feel like that would be a completion to their unit, but I'm not supposed to be feeling so much empathy for them. Or am I? Am I the only one? But I do. And I know that they've done all of these horrible things. And to have her lose the one thing that's most important to her is probably a very fitting end.
You promised! This can't be all there is!
And so Delilah goes back to an old pattern, a pattern that worked before. A lot of the times our maladaptive behavior patterns or our defense mechanisms, the things that we used to use to survive, are no longer beneficial or don't work anymore. But when there's nothing else, we often go back to these old habits in hoping that they'll work as they did once or cause us the same relief that they used to. For Delilah, that final realization that she went through all of these stages of grief so quickly, ending up with denial, even though she tried to do the exact same thing, it didn't work.
You may have stopped me today. Whispered One will finish what we began.
Rivers will flow with the blood of...
I think that that was actually a merciful thing for Cassandra to do for Delilah. I think that the worst thing would have been for her to have to live out her existence without her one true love, Silas.
He's out of his mind.
It certainly complicated things.
You and I have escaped from worse. The guards might catch the group, but not you and me.
True.
We could.
And why aren't we?
Vax and Vex are twins, and so that means that they've grown up together. And there's something really cool because you end up knowing someone so very well when you've spent your entire lifetime together through childhood, through all of their trials and tribulations, and you can tell that they leaned upon each other. And so because of that, there's this huge amount of trust between both of them.
I keep thinking about when we left Singorn.
Screw that place. And father. Whole thing nearly broke us.
Nearly.
So now you can tell why they're both so close. It isn't just that they grew up together, but they had to depend on each other to survive, even when their parental figure wasn't there in order to support them. And I think that that gives us the difference in the personality types of Vex and Vax. Vex definitely comes off as this hard exterior, that she's learned to trust no one, to depend on no one, except for Vax. And Vax seems to have a much softer, calmer personality type. He has a much warmer exterior. So I would definitely say that Vex has more of an avoidant attachment type. So that means when she's upset with things, she just wants to kind of leave it and doesn't want to get too close to people. Where Vax seems to have more of a secure attachment type. He's willing to take risks and get close to people, even if that means getting hurt in the process.
But it didn't, because we stuck together. We didn't let ourselves get distracted by pretty things. Careful, brother. Those vines have thorns.
And so this is Vex showing not only that she's jealous, and I don't think that it's jealous because she doesn't want her brother to be happy, but this is more that because she's avoidant and she hasn't let anyone into her defenses, the only person that she's ever relied on is her brother, and so she fears someone else getting between them. If you have never let anyone else in, to be able to have that trusted person there everything to you, and all through their lives, that's who they've had to depend upon. And so Keyleth becomes a threat because for Vex, she fears that if Keyleth gets into the picture, that maybe Vax will forget about her, and she won't have the only person that she's ever been able to truly trust.
You're imagining things, Stubby. No one will ever come between us.
Vax gets that right away. He understands that she's saying this not to hurt him and not even to protect him, but that it's because of her own fear. Right away, he doesn't get defensive, he doesn't get aggressive, he doesn't call her names and say you're jealous or being stupid. He says it and cuts right to the chase. You're never gonna lose me. And that soothes her. You can see it on her face that she understands that he hears her fear and her pain. And so because of that, that doesn't cause more conflict between them. She was able to let him in and see her vulnerability, but just for a minute. And right away, she goes back to being armored up and punches him in order to say, you know what? Don't think that I'm all weak and vulnerable. I'm also tough. And so that strike was her way of saying, you know what? I'm still tough, and now I'm going to walk off because I don't really need you. But she does.
You know, sometimes courage is knowing there could be trouble and taking the chance anyway.
So is stupidity.
In that statement, Vax is letting her know that he's probably going to take this risk anyways, and that's not him being just foolhardy, that he's willing to take a risk even though he might get hurt. And that's a good sign of secure attachment. Even though there's risk involved, it isn't going to hurt or worry his ego so much that he's going to be kind of stuck. And that's what happens with people that are avoidant in attachment. They sometimes are so scared of getting hurt that they don't take those risks. And because their defenses are up, they may take a really long time before they're able to be emotionally vulnerable in front of people because they see that as weakness, though it's really a strength. This is just something cute that I wanted to mention because you see that Vex and Vax are sleeping, and they're sleeping exactly the same way. There's an actual part of our brain that deals with mimicry of behavior called mirror neurons and fire when we see someone doing an action that we're going to want to replicate. And that ended up helping us in learning different behaviors. But also we believe that it was beneficial for bonding. And that's why if you've spent a lot of time with someone, such as growing up together, that you sometimes will mimic their behaviors or sounds or statements that they make. You do start to become a little bit more alike.
No! Brother! Stop! If you value your lives, you'll let my brother go!
We'll take excellent care of him.
And it's fitting that Vex ends up having to face that greatest fear of losing her brother, and it isn't even Keyleth who ends up doing it. Sometimes when you try to hold on to something, no matter how much you try to control all of these different situations, control is just an illusion and things are going to happen anyways.
Brother! Wake up! It's me! Wake up!
Abandonment is an exceptionally common fear. It often comes up when you've had people that you needed to depend on that haven't been there. And then sometimes you may end up being more anxiously attached, that need and that scurrying, and you feel that spinning when you can't. Or you might end up becoming more avoidantly attached. And that means that you kind of armor up, that it's hard for you to show vulnerability. It's hard for you to let people in because you fear unconsciously that they'll actually leave you. And so you end up as a defense mechanism, as a way of being able to survive all of that pain, that you don't get attached very easily. But if you end up being attached to someone, for the avoidant person, if they do let someone in, and through those vast defense mechanisms, even if they are maladaptive, such as being prickly or harsh or saying mean comments or making it difficult for people to get close to you because you can never be vulnerable. Once you actually do trust someone enough to let them in, them leaving you is exceptionally hurtful. You can see that for Vex, that pain in her face as she sees her brother leave her, that everything else comes back up and she has this huge anxiety response. And that's what this avoidant attachment is. They often seem cool and aloof and nothing really matters, but that's just their fear playing out because everything matters actually a lot. And that's why they don't let anyone in, because they're so afraid of being hurt again that they can't allow it.
Vax, it's me! You sure you want to do this, brother? Because we both know you used to lie about letting me win.
Vax has to face that not only has her brother left her, but he is actively trying to hurt her. And all of that turmoil of having the person that you love viciously attacking you, and what do you do? Because you know them so well that they have fought so many times together and probably sparred together. They know each other's moves and what they're gonna do, but it's hard when you're kind of fighting with one hand tied behind your back because she doesn't want to really harm him.
Please don't make me do this, brother!
Vex, is that you? Would you
Stop hitting me!
And for Vex, that unleashing all of that adrenaline, all of that pain, what happens is your brain kind of shuts down when you get that anxiety response, and going through all of this stress to have to face your greatest fear and to have to try to hurt and subdue the person that you love the most in the world. And so because of that, she's not really there during this battle.
Don't ever do that to me again. I was ready to kill you just now.
My face believes you.
This is when we see Vex with none of her defenses. She was able to cry and just hold him, and she became that little girl again that was able to depend upon her brother. That feeling of finally getting someone back and having them. It's so overwhelming. You get this surge of dopamine and endorphins, and it's the best feeling in the world. And she feels safe and secure again, at least for the moment.
I was ready to kill you just now.
My face believes you.
He's so good at making Vex feel heard and understood. He doesn't get upset that he's all broken and bloodied. He doesn't say, "Why did you hit me so hard?" He makes a little joke to be able to soften and soothe the situation. And I think that that's a great showing of the relationship that they have and why they work out so well together.
We need a job.
If protecting carts from swindlers and killing goblins for gold isn't getting us anywhere, maybe we could try doing some good this time?
Boring.
She wants to actually create a difference. And I think for a lot of people, when we're talking about what is our purpose, we want to make a mark on the world, to be able to make it better. But how to get there from where we are to actually doing it is really scary because it has risk of failure, risk of success. And it's one of those things that often it's us that gets in the way of being able to actually do it.
Bless our house. Here goes. May the Everlight shine upon your home. Good luck. Out of practice. I don't really bless a lot of houses these days.
You can hear through Pike's voice that she doesn't believe what she's saying. This blessing doesn't carry any weight because she doesn't feel like she can actually do it. She doesn't own who she is as a person, and she doesn't value her own character traits. It is often ourselves who gets in the way of being able to do wonderful things. She really believed in herself. If you really believed in yourself, what could you do?
Everlight. No. No, please.
Sometimes we place all of our power, all of our skills into things, extrinsic things. Sometimes we will end up doing rituals or carrying a trinket that brings us good luck. The problem with placing our belief, our value into the extrinsic is that one is we don't really recognize who we are for our traits, and two, because it's extrinsic, what happens if we don't have that item? What happens if we're not able to do that ritual? We can then start to defeat ourselves because we've placed all of that value into something that's ephemeral, that's not even real. And that can become something that often will trip us up because it gets into our head. For Pike, she placed all of that value into her holy symbol instead of into herself.
Yeah, use this to talk to your goddess?
After that spell hit me, the Everlight, it's like she can't hear me anymore. I don't know, Grog. I don't know anymore.
Oh.
What happens to us the first time that we really fail at something, that even though we made all of these wonderful plans, it all didn't work out? Often that can create a lot of doubt in our own abilities, and then we're going to re-question everything, even sometimes just from one failure, especially for people that haven't done a lot of failing. And I know it sounds weird, but failing is actually a skill. It's about practicing resiliency, which means getting back up after things happen that were bad. For a lot of people, especially if you've been really good at something, the first time that you fail, it's so devastating that it fills you with self-doubt, so much so that you may give up on doing the thing that is your dreams, or you might change your entire skill set, or completely start to doubt who you are as a person. Not just that you failed at a certain thing, but that you're a failure yourself.
Very well. To Whitestone.
I'm not going.
What? What do you mean?
I can't hear the Everlight. I think I need to tell her sorry, properly, at a temple.
But I like the way that Pike deals with this, in that she decides that she's gonna go and try to re-find herself. She's actually trying to find the Everlight, but in that also is that search for ourselves. And sometimes we need a little bit of a break from everything, from all of those extrinsic things, those outward things that stop us from being able to focus on what really matters, to be able to recenter and figure out what is our purpose.
I have to do this alone, buddy.
What if I need you?
Even if I'm not around, they'll feel me there with you.
And she's so beautiful and loving with Grog. They have the most sweet relationship, so pure. And I love that she tells him that you can always hear me, because that's true. With the people that we love, their voices are in our head always, because we know who they are, even though she might overassess Grog's ability to be able to hear her.
You're their light now.
Pike, even though she sometimes doubts herself and her own skills, she's wonderful at being able to inspire others. She's always so positive and thoughtful, and I think that that's one of her best attributes. Isn't that the kind of people that we want to have around us? Those people that just make us feel better about ourselves, that recognize us and see what we do, and are able to say that thing that we just needed to hear.
Everlight, hear me. No, 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 no.
It's scary to be able to face ourselves and our truth, and I think that that's really a good metaphor of watching Pike and all of this fire. People can really use that ability to think about themselves, being able to survive something, especially when we're dealing with something that risks our fear of failure or abandonment or disappointing people, or that we may not be good enough. That thought of heading towards the fire, and though it might burn you, you're going to be able to survive at the other side. That can often give you that resilience to be able to feel proud of yourself and be able to move forward, even though everything inside of you is saying, run away or don't try.
No curse, no spell could sever your connection to her light. It's impossible. Whatever is blocking you is inside of you.
I know it's a trope, but it is so true. This is what we deal with in therapy. It's almost always you. It's yourself that stops you from being able to achieve the things that you could really achieve. If you took a moment and just tried, believed in yourself, and risked all the things that you fear about risking, of course, making sure that you can still eat, what would you be able to accomplish? How much is fear stopping you from being able to achieve your dreams, to really let you fly?
When I'm with my friends, they're why you cut off my connection to your light. Unless you didn't sever it, I did.
Now you speak truth.
So here Pike is catastrophizing all of the mistakes that she's made, all of the ways that she hasn't been perfect. In reality, it isn't the Everlight, the goddess, that actually severed this connection. It was herself, because she felt so much guilt and shame that she got stuck on it, and she felt like the goddess, the Everlight, wouldn't be able to accept her with her imperfections. In the end, it was actually herself that severed that connection. Isn't that what we often do? We catastrophize the mistakes that we make. We take something small and we make it larger and larger and larger, and we don't allow ourselves to forgive ourselves. And that's what we have to do. Guilt and shame are no use. They're not any help. Our job is to learn from it and be able to do better. And to accept ourselves, not to be perfect, but to accept ourselves even with all of our flaws.
Sup?
After that journey of being able to find out her truth and being able to really accept it, here she has her Gandalf moment where she is able to really embody the light.
What's she doing? Watch.
Your weapons strike with the divine virtue of the Everlight. Now go crush some heads!
I love that. Now we get to see what Pike can do when she really believes in herself. Getting all emotional. It's such a juxtaposition from that first time when she tries to bless the house, how it's haphazard, how we could hear the hesitation in her voice. And in this, she really, really owns it. Isn't that what we hope to do? To be able to believe in ourselves so much that we can be the best version of who we are, along with all of our flaws, but really be able to risk it. Put everything into what we do, and then see what we could accomplish. It's such a good moment.
So, it worked? I mean, You said sorry?
I had things I needed to figure out, and once I did, let's just say I know who I am now.
I love it. I love those words that she knows who she is now. And we want to be able to do that in an honest way with our flaws and our strengths so that we can really accomplish all the things that we're meant to do.
Please stop that. I'm trying to concentrate.
Oh, is that what you're doing? I thought you were practicing your resting face.
Excuse me, my face?
It's interesting because for people with more of an avoidant attachment style, it's often much easier to show affection through insults and being mean. It's less of a risk because it's less direct. The person doesn't take it well or doesn't receive the insult as it is intended, kind of tongue in cheek, and throw it back, then they can just leave it like they weren't trying to get emotionally closer. And so this is one of the strange ways that people that are avoidant try to get close to people.
You're heading home. Figured you'd look happier.
This isn't a homecoming. This is a suicide mission to topple the necromantic murderers of my family.
Vex actually cares what Percy thinks, and Vex doesn't seem to really care what anyone thinks, not enough to stare at them and directly ask this question. But because Percy's also closed off, she doesn't really get how he works, and she's trying to figure him out, which makes him interesting to her.
For the record, I have a magnificent face.
Do you now?
Yes, I do. Lots of practice.
And you see, Percy reacted perfectly. Percy took this in a self-deprecating way, that he's actually really good at this. And you hear that chuckle as she kind of leans back, that comfort, this moment, this inside joke that they both shared. They're becoming closer with one another.
If you turn that thing on any of us again, I will not hesitate. I will kill you.
Percy, holding that weapon, it's like you're a different person. What is it?
It's interesting the difference between the way that Vex and Vax interact with Percy. Vax went at it very, very directly, really, really strong, threatened him, kind of put Percy's back against the wall. And for someone avoidant, that's actually going to make them more ardent, more upset, more withdrawn. Vax immediately understands that, and you can tell, even though she usually comes off with an abrasive, direct manner, she softens her tone when she's interacting with Percy because she's also avoidant. She understands that that's the first way that Percy's going to withdraw. And right away you see Percy's eyebrows react. This touched him. She wasn't strong-arming him. She wasn't forcing him. She wasn't threatening. She came at it from a place of kindness, of serious care.
When we came here, darling, you promised no more lies. You owe us the truth.
You're right.
Her words, they're sweet. She calls him darling, which I haven't seen it, but I don't think that she calls anyone else darling. It's that little special moment between both of them. She talks to him from a place of his heart, that we care about you. And for someone that's avoidant, that's their fear. Their fear is that they're going to be abandoned again, or that they're not good enough. And that fear of rejection and that fear of failure, especially after they've made a mistake, it's so threatening, so scary, that they often just withdraw. They want to stay in the cave, be alone, because it's too painful to cause harm to those that they care about. And so what she's doing by having these soft words, that soft tone, no matter what, you're safe with us. I'm not going to abandon you. And the funny thing is the person that he pointed the gun at was her brother, this person that she cares so much about. But she doesn't let her emotions get the best of her. She still wants to make sure she's able to say things and package them in a way that Percy can hear them.
Thinking about your sister?
Is it that obvious?
She was 13 when you last saw her, right?
Always got me in trouble.
She sounds like Scanlan.
So again, here she is wanting to know what Percy's thinking. She wants to get to know him on a deeper level, and she gives him that soft touch. They also share these moments where they chuckle and laugh together, which is a really strong sign when people become closer together, and they're sharing these moments that even though everyone else is around, no one else is privy to.
I hope she's okay.
Scanlan, too.
They're both sharing this worry. She's saying that I understand some of what you're going through. For Percy, someone that feels like they're always alone, that no one really gets them, that goes a long way. But when someone cares enough to be able to take the time to listen and hear how they're feeling, that makes people feel safe and validated. And I think that Vex does a really good job. Even the tone that she uses always with Percy, it's softer than she usually speaks with the rest of the group.
Darling, who let that sex-crazed gnome do this solo?
You?
Oh, never listen to me again.
Now, it's a kind of interesting thing in group dynamics that you can often see who's most aligned or cared about by who they look at to reply. That's us wanting that person's interaction. And so where their eyes are gazing, if they make a noise, that little tiny look, that often shows the person that we're closest to. And in this case, even though she's closest to her brother, she's looking towards Percy, though it was Vax who replied to her. Again, darling, which she seems to use as her pet name for Percy, which I love. I think it's quite a nice term of endearment. It's so interesting that for Vex, she was worried that Vax was becoming enthralled with Keyleth. And maybe even this is just her own projection, but I think unconsciously she's the one that's actually being enthralled by Percy.
Percy, snap the out of it!
What's the point? She's gone again.
Maybe, but the people in this room, we're not.
You should never strike someone, even if they're dazed out or going through an anxiety reaction. But what I do like about the way that Vex is handling this is that when he said, I may never see her again, she doesn't deny it. She doesn't go through and say something with rose-colored glasses that everything's going to be okay, we just have to believe. Someone that's gone through a lot of trauma and difficulty in life, they can sniff out sentences and belief statements that are completely false, and right away that makes them wall back up their defenses because they can't trust what you're saying. But she says it like it is. Maybe.
We will never abandon you.
Percy's fear is that everyone will leave him because Percy feels like if anyone knew all of the darkness that was within him, that no one could truly love him, that he's to blame for all of the horrors that have happened to his family. And I think that that's part of the darkness that's within him, one of the reasons why Orthax had such an easy time to reside within Percy.
You want your sister back, and I want my brother. But if we're to have a chance of saving them, you have to save us first!
Her words were beautiful. They carried so much weight because they were true. That we're a team, we're a family, and you have to work towards being able to take care of us because if we are not there, then no one can save the people that we love. And Percy was able to hear it because it was honest, because it was direct, and inspirational at the same time. And that allowed him to get the strength to be able to stand back up.
Vexalia, what are you doing?
I know you're in there. Darling, take off the mask.
It's amazing to see Vex's strength. Everyone else is scared of Orthax and with Percy wearing the mask, but she's not. She's gotten close to him and he's worth taking this risk. She's seen deeper into Percy. She cares about who he is as a person. So she shows no fear as she walks up. She does what no one else would, to be able to take off the mask. I think that that's a really great metaphor for real intimacy. It's when we're able to lower that mask that we hide behind and show someone all of those vulnerable, horrible, icky parts of ourselves, the parts that we think that we'll be judged for, the parts that we might see as weak. And Vex doesn't show revulsion or shock at seeing Percy being scared and crying underneath it.
You can put it down.
It won't let me.
Don't do it!
When someone's really upset and anxious, if you have really strong words or you're really aggressive, it can make someone feel worse. You're adding more adrenaline to the mix because you're adding more threat. But instead, she's talking softly. She's with him. This is not her against him. this is them being together. She also accepted and validated that as well. She didn't show pity, which would have crushed Percy, and she didn't show shock or horror. She just accepted him exactly as he is. And isn't that what all of us really want? To be able to show all of our vulnerability, our weakness, our darkness to someone else, and to have them completely accept it. All of the things that we don't even accept about ourselves. For Vex, she understands this because she's the same attachment type as Percy. And so because of that, these are her fears also. And I think that that's why she's so good at soothing and validating him.
Wait! Please, Percy! Don't forfeit your own soul!
Won't let you!
A lot of times when we're really upset or angry or furious at someone, there's that one person that's able to reach us, that we'll do things for that we wouldn't do for anyone else. And it's funny because when Orthax states you know who to trust, he says yes, and he chooses Vex. Sorry. Emotional again. Watching the way that they interact, there's so much chemistry. They're my favorite relationship on the show. Well, Grog and Pike also, it's a toss-up.
Okay, we'll take you in, but the bear waits outside.
You can tell that for Trinket, this is not the first time that he hasn't been let in, and you can see how sad he is. Think about that feeling of when you're just the ranger's animal companion, and you're never really given that full rank to be able to do all the other things that your team is able to do. Trinket still puts his life on the line, even though he doesn't get to have the same access as everyone else does, because he's not a humanoid. Trinket has been with Vex for a really long time. They've shared a lot of moments together, and because of that, they're really close. And he is Vex's animal companion, but our pets, the creatures that we hang out with, are closer to us than family. But I think that that understates his value, calling him a pet or just a companion. He is to Vex someone else that she feels safe and secure with. Animals, for us, they also create that feeling of security, especially for people that are more avoidantly attached, who don't trust people. They often will trust animals more than they'll even trust people. They won't judge you no matter what. They don't care. That unconditional love is this wonderful healing feeling. Not something hidden behind how they're showing their emotions. If they're upset at you, they're going to let you know directly, and they're fiercely protective even if you're wrong. I love watching Trinket get all of those cuddles, because what is a better feeling than being cuddled? And you can see the guards that Trinket has already captured their hearts also, and that sad little tiny grumpy noise that he makes when he no longer gets his cuddles, which a lot of pets do. You stop cuddling them and they right away get upset and ornery and a little grumpy because, hey, why don't I get my cuddles anymore? And when we cuddle a pet, something that's soft and warm and fuzzy and it's reacting positively, it actually lowers our level of stress hormones. It releases serotonin and lowers our level of cortisol. It also lowers our blood pressure. So when people say that they need support animals, that really is true. And when you spend a certain amount of time cuddling one, you will often feel physiologically better. So it's also really good for our health.
Is that so? Please, Scanlan, tell me yours.
And you see how protective Trinket is of Vex? Even though Scanlan hasn't actually done anything wrong, if she's upset at him, he's upset at him also. And it's a wonderful thing to have that friend or that companion that no matter what, even if you've done the wrong thing, they have your back no matter what. And you knew that she wanted that because right away she leans on Trinket to be like, guess what? Be careful, because it's not just me, I have backup.
Trinket? Hi, buddy. Oh, I know, darling. But you'll be safer here at the keep. We'll be back soon.
And you can see that Trinket is really hurt about, again, being left out, not being with his tribe. It's such a hurtful feeling when everyone's doing things, and these are things that are dangerous, and you're not able to help. And you know that Trinket doesn't want to be left at the keep. Even if it risks his life, he wants to be there with Vex, fighting at her side. And it's funny because Trinket doesn't spend a lot of time on screen, but I do feel like he just kind of steals every single scene that he's in.
Ha-ha! My masterpiece is complete! The vampires! The Cyclops I vanquished!
I love that picture of Trinket happily sleeping next to the people that he loves. Pets and companions, they're more like family to many of us than just this creature that we take care of. They're meaningful to us, and they really do help our own psychology. They also get us out so that there's someone that we can care for, and someone that we have to make sure that we're okay and we're getting up and doing the things we need to so that we can take care of them. I'm sad that Trinket didn't get more screen time, but I think that all of us would love to have that animal companion, and those of us that already do are just so fortunate. That person that's always with us, fighting by our side whenever we need them. Were the ears too much? I know, I just see John Candy in my face. Let me know in the comments, did I go too far? Finally, I've crossed over the line. If you like this video and want to see more of me wearing ears, please hit subscribe.